Hi guys, I'm Sasha, and today I wanted to talk about which credit card should you pay off first if you have more than one card and you're carrying a balance on them and you're trying to reduce how much you pay and get out of debt. Now, first of all, let's just talk very briefly about the types of balance you might have in your credit cards, and there are three broad groups of people or credit cards. The first one is going to be when you have a credit card that has a probably large balance that's sitting there and you're paying it off over time, you are paying interest on it. Now, that is a prime candidate for the type of card you want to be repaying. We'll come to the order of how you decide which one to repay first later. The next card is one that you might have the same balance on, but it's on a long-term 0% offer. That is the kind of card that you want to leave alone for the time being and repay once where you're actually paying interest right now. The third type of card that you might have is one where you do spend on it, you do have a balance, but you repay it in full. Let's say it's a card that gives you points or something else like that. Those types of cards you should continue paying in full, because usually you'll be paying more interest if you don't than the ones that you are looking to repay. Now let's talk about how you decide which particular card you should repay first. The really obvious decision is to go for the highest APR or highest interest, but it's not quite as simple as that. It really does depend on what kind of balance you have sitting on those cards and what the specific interest rate for those balances is. What I mean by that is quite often the APR on the card will be different to what you're actually paying in interest, and the reason is the APR is the purchase interest rate on credit cards, whereas some of your balances may be in balance transfers, money transfers, or even cash. Hopefully not cash, but it might be. And often those types of balance carry much higher interests than the purchase interest rate, so you should look at what kind of balances you have. I would look at each of your credit card statements in turn and go and look at the highest interest rate that you currently have a balance on and write down that interest rate per card. It doesn't matter if you have other balances that have lower interest rates, because when you make payments to credit cards, you are paying off the highest interest balance first. So go and look. If you have one credit card that has some purchases, some balance transfer balance, and a small amount of cash on it, you should write down the cash APR, or interest rate, which is going to be higher, probably 29.9, 30.99, something like that. Then for your next payment, you should go ahead and pick the highest interest rate that any of your current credit cards pay, and pay into that one first. Continue doing that until you've repaid the entire amount of balance that is carrying the highest amount of interest, and then move to the next one down. Go and check again. It could be that if you repaid the cash on one of your credit cards and that high interest rate is now gone, the next one down, say the balance transfer rate, is still higher than the other credit cards balances, so you should just go and do that same exercise of checking the various different credit cards and the balances on them every single time. If you have a credit card that has a 0% balance transfer or money transfer on it, just be really careful. In normal circumstances, you should not touch it, you should not repay it, you should just let that balance sit there. It is not costing you anything. But if your term is coming up to an end and is going to begin charging you interest in the next few months, you should consider whether you are able to move it to a different card. I'll go ahead and check just before if you're eligible. If you're eligible, you may choose to move the balance and continue paying the higher interest elsewhere. If you're not, or if you don't want to move it, you should begin repaying it as quickly as possible if that interest rate the balance is going to go to is higher than the interest rate on the balances that you are currently paying. Now, a few interesting points about making sure that you pay down your cards as quickly as possible. One is always consider whether the highest interest rate balance you currently carry can be switched instead of paid. And the reason that can be really powerful is if you take your credit cards with the highest amount of interest that you're currently paying, and then you switch all of those balances to a 0% rate card that is not going to cost you anything, you've immediately removed all of that interest that you're throwing away every month, and you can then focus on repaying the next credit card down, where the interest rate is already considerably lower, but you're now going really, really fast in repaying your debt compared to what you were doing before. So go and check before you make that order of which ones you're going to pay, whether you can take some of the highest interest rate credit cards and move the balances to a 0% deal so that you can accelerate the process. That's it for today. It's a really quite short video. I hope you found it useful. Make sure that you go ahead and check which balances carry the highest interest. Go and pay them first. If you can take the highest interest rate balances and put them on a 0% deal, do that. If you have found this useful, please subscribe, please hit the like button, smash that bell so you get notifications every time a new video comes out on a Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and I will see you in the next video.